Welcome to another episode of our live stream, My Journey to the Trinity. My name is Hussein. Happy to be with you. Happy to be with me. Hope you're having a good Friday night. Hello, Abla, Kamali, Salam al Masih. Peace of Christ be with you. And I just was reading a little bit about in the book of Matthew about the prophecies that Jesus. Hello, Ricky. God bless you. Lord bless you guys. And as I was reading, I kind of came across this. Hello, Michelle. God bless you. Jesus was talking about the end. Let's just read it. It's a beautiful chapter. It talks about. It says Jesus left the temple and was walking away when his disciples came up to him to call his attention to the buildings. Do you see all these things? He asked. Truly, I tell you, not one stone here will be left upon another. Every one will be thrown down. Now, one thing that I kind of noticed when I was reading this that I haven't really noticed before is that it seems like Jesus is kind of encouraging them to ask him about the end. He wanted to tell them about the end times. And so he started by when they are telling him about the buildings of the temple. And he started telling them that not one stone will be left upon another, to kind of pick their curiosity, to get them to ask about the end times, because he wanted to tell them about it. And I know the subject of prophecy is controversial, and a lot of people avoid it, but Jesus didn't avoid it, and he told us very clearly things that are going to happen. And I always like to do updates about prophecy, especially when I see things happening that seem like prophecy. And right now, it's just, if we could I just want to just change the subject just really quickly, and just, the big news right now in the Middle East is Yemen, and so the interesting thing is that there's prophecy in Ezekiel 38 about Yemen. It says, Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish and all her villages will say to you, have you come to plunder? Now, this is Ezekiel 38, which talks about the war that is against Israel, that is led by which country? Persia. It's the first country of all these countries that are coming. Persia, Cush, Put, Gomer, Beth Togarmah, all of these nations. The first one is Persia. Okay. Now there's another one. It's up here. Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, which is the land of Magog. Okay. So we do have that also, which I believe is Russia, the land of the far north. And Ezekiel uses these ancient names to describe these places, and they're the ancient names from Genesis chapter 10, which is the Table of Nations. And I've talked about the Table of Nations before. It's one of the most fantastic historical, archaeological, demographical ancient record in the world. It is almost miraculous how powerful Genesis chapter 10 is. It's called the Table of Nations. Tells you these sons of Noah went here. This Japheth went here. Shem went here. Ham went here, and this son of Ham went here, and this son of Japheth here. And it is. And Ezekiel 38 uses the names of the countries from the Table of Nations. For instance, Magog, Gog, and Magog. We go back to Genesis 10, we'll find it there. And let me just say one thing, you guys. I just want to tell you one thing here. I just want to look at this right here. This is something that that I noticed this last week. Okay. And if I'm wrong, that's fine. I don't mind being wrong. But, one thing that is interesting about Ezekiel 38 is what God says to Magog. What he says to Magog. He says, I will turn you around and put hooks in your jaws and bring you out with your whole army. Turn you around. Now, it's interesting. He says, I'm going to turn you around. Why is he saying, I'm going to turn you around? Now, I believe this is speaking to Russia. But why is he saying, I'm going to turn you around? Because I believe Russia is leaving the Middle East. You see that Russia is leaving the Middle East. And because Russia is leaving the Middle East, God is saying, I'm going to put a hook in your nose and your jaws and bring you back. Because he still has business to do with Russia. And he says, I will turn you around, put hooks in your jaws, and bring you out with your whole army, your horses, your horsemen, fully armed, great horde, with large and small shields, all of them brandishing swords. Okay, and so there, God is telling Magog, I'm going to bring you back. But before he can bring them back, they have to be leaving. And if you know what is going on in the Middle East, that Russia has been very active in Syria ever since our great president Barack Hussein Obama, and my name is Hussein, so it's not racist to say that. Okay. Okay. When Barack Obama, sparked the Arab Spring that led to the Syrian civil war that he started when he was creating ISIS. But one thing that happened, remember that Barack Obama told Syria, he told Bashar al-Assad, he says, don't use chemical weapons. That's a red line for the U.S. Well, he used chemical weapons and America did nothing, because Barack Hussein Obama was a wimp. Okay. But who did step in? Russia stepped in. And Russia kind of took over. And they kind of began to play a very important role in Syria. And so they've been there for a long time. But with this coup that happened last week, where, this Nusra Front, the HTP, I don't know what they call them. This group, this Al-Qaeda descended group, took over Syria. They kicked out Bashar al-Assad, the president, and replaced the government, and they are now the government of Syria. Uh, and Bashar al-Assad went where? He went to Russia. And so, and when he got to Russia, his wife said she was going to divorce him because she wants to go to England. She doesn't like being in Russia. And but then it's very sad. It turns out she's got cancer and she's not expected to live very long. So anyway, very sad situation there. But anyway, so Russia is kind of leaving because Russia doesn't have the the energy to be both fighting a war in the Ukraine and then fighting a war in Syria. And so Russia is and Bashar al-Assad was kind of Russia's, puppet in the Middle East. And so he left. And so Russia is kind of leaving Syria. But here God says, I will turn you around, put hooks in your jaws and bring you out. Just like God saying, I'm going to bring you back. So what's going to happen to bring Russia back to the Middle East? I'm not sure, but it says here that that's going to happen. And then it says the countries that are going to come with Magog, Persia, which is Iran, is number one. And it's not just, it's number one as if it's in a prominent role. Okay, it's not just number one. It's like it's in a prominent position. Kush, which some people believe is like Sudan, the non-Arab African countries, like Sudan, Somalia, okay, which are controlled by ISIS, no, by Shabab and those groups. Put, which is Libya, or the Arab African countries, will be like Algeria, Morocco, all the Arab countries, Libya, will be with them, all with shields and helmets. What's interesting is who's not with them. Not with them is Egypt. Egypt is not mentioned here, which, in the ancient Genesis 10, Egypt is Mizraim. Mizraim is what it's called. And in Arabic, Egypt is called Masr, which I think is probably from Mizraim. But okay. Also Gomer with all its troops, Bet Togarma. Okay, would be the southern, parts of the former Soviet Union. From the far north with its troops and many nations with you. There's going to be other nations too. Okay, and so they're coming to fight against Israel. And then when they're coming, there's a group of nations that are kind of on the side. And one of those nations, Sheba and Dedan, and the merchants will say to you, have you come to plunder? And, Sheba and Dedan, you guys, is like the Arabian Peninsula. And Dedan specifically and Sheba are like Yemen. And I don't know if you're watching the news, but, the Houthis from Yemen have been firing ballistic missiles at Israel for the past 7 months, and some of them hit. Some of them have hit. They hit in Tel Aviv. They, I don't believe they've killed anybody, but they have injured people and they've caused damage. And even though Israel knows how to shoot down missiles, I mean, we saw that with the Iranian missile attack where like 300 missiles were fired at Israel and they shot them all down. And then the second time, like 250 missiles were fired and Israel shot them all down with help from, Joe Biden. But these missiles from the Houthis in Yemen, some of them are getting through and hitting. And it's interesting. I mean, they're not as numerous as the Iranian missiles. And you're wondering, why are they actually hitting the targets? And so anyway, what's happened is Israel has started hitting Yemen. So they're hitting Yemen now. And um, so, jeez. Saudi Arabia has been at war with Yemen for a long time because of Iran's influence in Yemen. Iran's like the octopus. They're in charge of Hamas. They're in charge of Hezbollah. They're in charge of they're like in charge of Bashar al-Assad, and now the Houthis. They're all arms of the octopus. Iran being the head of the octopus, and the arms. These are the arms, and Israel has kind of you know decimated lots of those arms, but now the Houthis in Yemen are the big, uh, strong, the ones who are really hurting, the ones that are still very active and firing these ballistic missiles, very advanced. And the Jerusalem Post says the Houthis are much more advanced than Israel expected. They're not just a bunch of Bedouins riding camels down there. No, these guys have a lot of technology, and Iran has given them some very advanced weapons. So yeah. So anyway, Sheba and Dedan are mentioned here in Ezekiel 38. So these prophecies, you guys, this is why I like to do prophecy updates as every now and then, because it just looks like these prophecies are being fulfilled. And let's just go to Psalm 83. Psalm 83. Okay, it says, God, do not remain silent. Do not turn a deaf ear. See how our enemies growl, how our foes rear their heads. With cunning, they conspire against your people. They plot against those you cherish. Come, they say, let us destroy them as a nation, so Israel's name is remembered no more. With one mind, they plot together to form an alliance against you. The tents of Edom, the Ishmaelites, Moab, Byblos, Ammon, Amalek. Amalek is like the Philistines, Philistia, and the people of Tyre. Now, Philistia and the people of Tyre, that's where you get Gaza and Lebanon. And we know those have been the main focus. Okay. Even Assyria has joined them. Okay. That would be like northern Iraq. And in Iraq, they were also attacking, and from northern Iraq. And that's Assyria and Lot's descendants. And so all of these, these countries here, they're just named right here in Psalm 83. We could go even further, but I'm just trying to show you that, you know what? A lot of these prophecies are coming to pass. And we just need to, especially right now, like I said, the one right now is Yemen, Sheba and Dedan. Sheba and Dedan. And so yeah, just keep your eyes, because these prophecies are going to be fulfilled just like the Bible says. And so let's just look at what Jesus says here in Matthew chapter 24. Okay, he says, when Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. Tell us, they said, when will this happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? Now, it's interesting that they knew that he was going to come again. So he must have told them that he was going to leave and he was going to come again. Because this is, what is the sign of your coming? So his disciples knew that he was going to come again. There was going to be the second coming, and the end of the age. And Jesus answered, watch out that no one deceives you. So the first thing This is the white horse of the book of Revelation, first horse of the four horsemen. That no one deceive you, the false religion. Many will come in my name, claiming to be the Messiah, and will deceive many. And maybe someday we'll some week I will do like a each of these prophecies and show how they are being fulfilled right now as we speak, with all the people who are claiming to be Jesus in the world. And there's so many, you guys. It's it's really amazing. You will hear, and you know what? And one thing too is look how many quotes of Jesus Muhammad usurped. How many of the quotes of Jesus Muhammad usurped? He said, for instance, if someone gives you, don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing when you're giving charity. Then he says, there's another place where Muhammad said, he says, if you give water to the least of these, you've done it unto me. Allah supposedly says this. If you do this to the least of these, you've done it unto me. And quotes directly from the Bible. That I'm going to come with the Allah is going to be with the clouds of heaven, returning in glory and stuff. So many quotes usurping the glory of Jesus. Okay, so and I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. Okay, you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. How many wars are in the world right now? And wars that have the potential to destroy the world. I mean, their potential to go nuclear. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. I mean, some of the most dangerous players in the world right now are at war. Okay, see to it that you are not alarmed. Okay, so Jesus is telling us, don't be alarmed. Similar to what in John 14 he says, don't let your heart be troubled. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death. You will be hated by all nations because of me. Wow. Is that, I know the other day I talked a little bit about, like 24 million Christians around the world are now being persecuted. At least 24 million. 5,000 Christians a year are killed for their faith that we know of. 5,000 a year are killed for their faith. Okay. And at that time, many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other. Lord Jesus, keep us. And many false prophets, okay, there's about Muhammad, will appear and deceive many people. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. But the one who stands firm till the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations. Then the end will come. And then Jesus it looks almost like he's changing the channel, just kind of going back and focusing on another topic. And that is, so when you see, right before I get here, you guys, I just wanted to, before I go there, one of my favorite movies even when I was a Muslim, um, even when I was a Muslim every year, I used to love to watch the movie Jesus of Nazareth. And let me just, I used to love to watch the movie by Franco Zeffirelli called Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus of Nazareth. And This is Olivia Hussey, and she played Mary in Jesus of Nazareth. She played Mary, and I just Olivia Hussey died today. Okay, so she was 72 years old. So anyway, for those of you who like the movie Jesus of Nazareth, which I like, I used to love to watch it, and um, yeah, so she was a famous actress. She played uh, in Romeo and Juliet and a bunch of movies. But anyway, but her, the one that we care about is as Mary in the movie Jesus of Nazareth. So anyway, she died today. I don't know if she was a believer. I hope she was. This is her picture when Gabriel appeared to her. So anyway, yeah, that movie was. Oh, really? Your favorite movie ever? You know what? I kind of think that it's probably one of my favorite Jesus movies. I really like The Passion of the Christ too, but I really like Jesus of Nazareth. So it's one of my favorite Jesus movies. I really like Robert Powell, and I think he did a great job. So okay, but I like Jim Caviezel too. Okay, so okay, now let's go to this right here. This is what I really want to focus on today. Is so when you see standing in the holy place, the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of through the prophet Daniel. Let the reader understand. So this is really, there's so much here. Just, you know, before we go on, um, Jesus, okay, first of all, I just want to say that there's a lot of people, very critical people, critics who say that Daniel was that they deny that Daniel was a prophet because they say that the stuff that Daniel wrote, he wrote it after the events because his prophecies are so accurate and they were fulfilled. I mean, almost immediately. I mean, Daniel's prophecies, you guys, this guy was like on the level of John. I would consider him on a level of Abraham, because, he was called, Abraham was called the friend of God. And Daniel was a prophet. And there's no other prophet that is addressed the way Daniel is. He says, a man greatly beloved. When the angel came to him, they said to him, you're a man greatly beloved. I mean, Daniel was so special. And to those kind of people, God gives secrets. Because what about John, who wrote Revelation? John. And what was John called? The disciple whom Jesus loved. So you see, God shares secrets with those who are greatly beloved. And so we see Daniel. It doesn't say that about Zechariah. It doesn't say that about Ezekiel. It doesn't say about Isaiah. I mean, they were greatly beloved. They were amazing, awesome. It's all the word of God. But Daniel was called the man greatly beloved. He was very special. So, and Jesus here says through the prophet Daniel. So Jesus calls him the prophet. Okay. And so Jesus here says, and this is interesting too, when you see, okay, so there's, Jesus is saying, when you see. Now, obviously, it wasn't going to be in the days of the disciples. So he's talking to us. And how do we know that? Because look what Jesus says here. Let the reader understand. Jesus knew that his words were going to be written down in a book. And he addresses the reader that we are reading this. Jesus says, let the reader understand. You know what? This is the only time he says that. He addresses the reader of his words. Let the reader understand. That's a very, Jesus is telling us, you guys, listen to what I'm saying here. This is important. He says, when you see standing in the holy place. Where is the holy place? Jerusalem, the Temple Mount. When you see standing in the holy place, the abomination that causes desolation. Okay, now you guys, because Jesus mentioned that, I want to go back actually and look at what Daniel says about the abomination of desolation. Okay. It's mentioned 3 times in the book of Daniel. Okay, so we're going to look at it. Look at the 3 times, and okay, so let's go and look at it. And you guys, like I said, Daniel is a prophet like no other. He is amazing, so accurate that people were saying, later on they'd said, oh, these prophecies were written after the events, because they were so accurate they didn't believe that it could have been written before. But you guys, Daniel is the first prophet, the first person in the Bible to whom Gabriel appears. So Gabriel appeared to the prophet Daniel several times. And he doesn't appear again until he comes to announce to Zechariah that he's about John the Baptist, about his son John the Baptist, and then to Mary. So there's 3 times where Gabriel appears in the Bible, but the first time is to Daniel. And Gabriel is the very special angel. They believe there's 3 archangels, Gabriel, Michael, and Lucifer. Lucifer fell. He was the worship archangel, and he fell. But then there's Michael, who's the warrior archangel. And then there's Gabriel, who is the prophet. He always comes to predict the coming of Jesus. He always comes to predict the coming of Jesus. Okay, so here's the first time that the abomination of desolation is mentioned. Now, this is talking about the Antichrist. Daniel has some of the most amazing prophecies about the Antichrist, you guys. It says, he will confirm a covenant with many for 1/7. That's for a 7-year period, which is the tribulation. Okay. And in the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. In the middle of that week, okay, what's the middle? 3.5 years. So there's the middle of the tribulation, 3.5 years. And go to the book of Revelation and look, I think it's like 6 times it talks about this 3.5 year period. So what it's called 1,260 days, or 42 months, or a time times and half a time. It's called different things, but it always equals 3.5 years. Okay, so here's Gabriel talking about the Antichrist, about the 7-year period. What is that 7-year period? That's the tribulation at the end of the world. Okay. And the 70th week of Daniel, 70th week of Daniel, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. And at the temple, so there's a temple, you guys, he will set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him. So there's a temple. And there apparently they are offering sacrifices and offerings at this temple at this time. And then after 3.5 years, he forbids sacrifices and sets up an idol. And I believe this corresponds to Revelation 13, where it says that the false prophet makes an image of the beast and breathes life into it. So, okay, so that's the first mention of the abomination of desolation. Let's look at the next one. It's 11:31, also Daniel. It says, his armed forces will rise up to desecrate the temple fortress and abolish the daily sacrifice. Then they will set up the abomination that causes desolation. His armed forces, meaning he's got an army that is going to desecrate the temple fortress. You guys just look at the Temple Mount. It looks like a fortress there. And will abolish the daily sacrifice, meaning that they're going to be reinstating sacrifices. And they will set up the abomination. Okay. And then the last one is 12:11. From that time, the daily sacrifice is abolished, and the abomination that causes desolation is set up. There will be 1,290 days. Okay. So, you keep seeing that there's going to be this temple, and then they're going to actually restore sacrifice and offerings. Now, this is the Jews, okay, not Christians, because we don't believe in that. But the Jews will establish sacrifice and offerings in a temple, and then the Antichrist stops that and sets up the abomination that causes desolation. So this happens in the middle of the tribulation. Okay. And let's go back to Matthew 24 now. All right. Now, Jesus here, he's talking. This is an interesting thing. When you see, how are people going to see this? I mean, Jesus says here, so when you see standing in the holy place, how are people going to see this? How are people going to see this? Well, how are people going to see this? And Jesus is saying, when you see, that means that you're going to see this. How can you see it? Well, here you go, you guys. This is how you see it. This is live right now in Jerusalem. This is live right now in Jerusalem. You can see the people walking around there. And what's right there? The holy place. live. This is happening right now, live streaming. And I know to us it's nothing, but Jesus was talking about actually seeing something happening. You know, he was saying, when you see, so we'll be able to see. When you see, standing in the holy place, the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Jesus is telling us, understand this. Don't ignore it. Don't just say, oh, there's wacko Steve again going on. Jesus says, let the reader understand. So if you don't want to listen to what I'm saying, go study it yourself. Because Jesus said, let the reader understand. He's telling us to focus on this. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Now, this is interesting. Where is Judea, you guys? Judea is like the West Bank. And Judea is like the West Bank. And there's a group of Jews living there now, 500,000 of them, who are among the most hated people in the world. I mean, the world hates Israel, like the UN and everything like that. But this group of Jews even more hate. Even the other Jews hate them for being in the West Bank. And Jesus talking to them, he says, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. But look at how it says, let no one on the housetop go down and take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get their cloak. I mean, he's saying this is something you got to do instantly. But what? You have to see it first. So it's like you see it on your telephone, you see it on your on your YouTube, and as soon as you see it, run. I said, don't even look back. I mean, there's not even time for it to go get your coat. Just run. You see the amazing, it indicates that there's going to be a way that you can see it. He doesn't say when you hear about it. He doesn't say when you hear about it. He says when you see it. Okay. Then he says, how dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not take place in winter or on the Sabbath, for then there will be great distress unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. Okay, so there he's talking about the tribulation. He's talking about, I believe, the days we're living in almost. It says, if those days had not been cut short, no one would survive. So he's talking about a time when mankind has the ability to destroy everybody on earth. No one would survive. And how are days cut short? How are days cut short? I believe that's talking about nuclear winter. That the days are actually shortened. And then there's a reference to this in the book of Revelation, where it says a third of the moon and a third of the sun and a third of the stars are darkened. I believe that is a reference here to this prophecy about the days being cut short. Okay. At that time, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Messiah, or there he is, do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you ahead of time. So if anyone tells you he's out in the wilderness, there's another place where it says, translates that word as desert, like the desert of Arabia. Okay. Do not go out. Or here he is in the inner rooms, like the Watchtower inner room in Brooklyn, which is Kingdom Halls, which is what the Jehovah's Witnesses says that Jesus came back in 1924 and he's over there in the inner rooms. Do not believe it. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible, even in the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. Okay. So, these are, I just want to say, um, okay. Following the words of Charles Taze Russell, Millennial Dawn. Okay. Okay. Established in faith. Okay. 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 So he started saying that Jesus was going to come back. Okay. It is presumed that view that Jesus Christ's invisible presence dated from the autumn of 1874. So, okay. So they're saying that he came back and I thought by 1914. Okay. Let me see. Are you okay? You must. Okay. Yeah, okay. I just want to see the unfulfilled. Okay. The Watchtower Tract Society have made a series of predictions about Christ's second coming and the advent of God's kingdom, which have gone unfulfilled. Almost all the predictions for 1878, 1881, 1914, 1918, 1925 were later reinterpreted as a confirmation of the Bible student movement and Jehovah's Witnesses, with many predicted events as having taken place invisibly. Isn't that funny? They say invisibly, have taken place invisibly. So they have taken place invisibly. But what does Jesus say? What does Jesus say, guys? Okay, it says, faithful ones to be resurrected to earth. Okay. This in 1925 was based on calculations of the Jewish Jubilee of 3,500 years. And Oh, 1975 as well. So Christ set up his kingdom in heaven in 1914, and the generation of those were okay. So indefinite or ambiguous. But what does Jesus say? Because they're saying that he's coming back invisible. He came back invisible. But what did Jesus say? He says, so if anyone tells you there he is out in the wilderness, or do not go out, or here he is in the inner rooms of the Watchtower Society, do not believe it. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man. Okay. And on the clouds of heaven, then all people on the earth, when they see the Son of Man, they're going to see him. It's not going to be hidden in Brooklyn, New York. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So, all right, you guys. Well, I was just wanting to do something about the abomination of desolation. You know, what is this? Ethnos, probably from 14, a race of the same habit, a tribe, especially foreign, non-Jewish one, usually by a pagan. I Indicosta. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what that means. Um, so, yes, to the mountains to deceive. You know, these prophecies, you guys, Jesus, there, it just seems like we need, and Jesus tells us to pay attention, you know, and Jesus rebuked the Jews of his days because they did not know the day of their visitation. And Daniel is the one who told them the day of their visitation in the 70 weeks prophecy, because he predicted exactly the day when Jesus would ride into Jerusalem on a donkey as the king, specifically saying it was on a donkey in Zechariah chapter 11. But in Zechariah 11, it says Jesus is going to ride into Jerusalem on a donkey as the king. But in Daniel 9:24, it tells you when, the exact day he's going to do that. And Jesus rebuked them because he said, you did not know the day of your visitation. So, yes. So we need to, be aware of these things. So, hallelujah. Amen. So, all right, you guys. Well, I just wanted to do a little thing about that, about the Abomination of Desolation. I know it seems like it doesn't have really a relationship to Islam, but boy, it does. It has a great relationship to Islam, because what's in the holy place, you know? So, and then that leads us to, the Revelation 11. And I know, you guys, there's lots of Christians, I think especially Arab Christians, who don't believe in the Old Testament, who don't believe in the prophecies. And they say, oh, those have been fulfilled, and they haven't been fulfilled yet. And I don't think we can ignore them. Second coming will be on the feast I believe that too, with that, nobody, because the Jewish calendar has been, oh, I see. Okay. That's good. That's possible. I do believe that it's going to be on the Feast of Trumpets. The rapture is going to be on the Feast of Trumpets. There's a difference between the rapture and the second coming. I believe the rapture is going to happen on the trumpet, just because all the main events in the history of the church happened on the feast days, including Pentecost, Feast of Unleavened Bread, Feast of First Fruits, and Feast of Pentecost. Those were all fulfilled exactly on the days of the feasts. And so I believe that the rapture is going to happen also on one of those feast days, which would be most likely the Feast of Trumpets. So, yeah, so now a lot of people say that it's going to be on the Feast of Trumpets. I believe that too. But at the same time, I think we don't know. I think it could be today. But you guys. Right now is the third day of the what is it? The third day. We're right now on the third day of Hanukkah. At the last Trump. Yeah, you know what? That's it. And, yeah, you guys, there may be another Trump on the way. Who knows if hello MMA, God bless you. Who knows if what's his name? Donald Trump's young son, Barron Barron Trump. He may be the last Trump, to be president. I don't know. So, and isn't it interesting that it talks about 3.5 years, and the American president's term is 4 years. So I don't know. It's very similar. So anyway, all right, you guys. Well, just keep your eyes on. Let's look one more time at the news and just see if anything's happened, because so much stuff. Yeah, I believe it. And the final Trump and First Thessalonians 4 also speaks about the trumpet, the sound of the trumpet. He shall descend with the voice of the archangel and the trump of God. So there's actually more than once that it talks about Trump. So yeah, I just want to see this. Okay. Yeah, well, you don't know, but either way, we'll keep our eyes open and be prepared for his return. So, all right, you guys. Well, thank you for hanging out with us. And if you haven't done it, please do it now. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. You know what? It's still early, so I'm going to do a song. Okay. See if anybody caught on to that. Yeah. Did you feel the wind? Did you feel the breeze? Did you see the shadow of one walking on the sea? 5 loaves and 2 fishes in his hand they laid, and 5,000 people went home satisfied that day. Daughter of a rabbi, 12 years old they say, breathed the last until he came, drove her death away. Blind man on the corner could not stop his cry, came unto the master and opened up his eyes. Do you think there's something? Do you think it's true? No matter where I go, God will lead me back to you. Do you think there's something? Do you think it's real? Need a love inside this empty heart that I can feel. All right. Even if it's true that American 100 years ago was the first to notice it, this doesn't mean the rapture is not there. I saw it without being. Well, if it's in the Bible, the Bible talks about in, I don't believe that people just found out about it 100 years ago. I think there's a lot of people who are really anti-rapture stuff, and so they really think it's like escapist and everything. Some people think it's escapist, but you know what Jesus said? He says, pray that you'll be found worthy to escape the things that are coming upon the earth. So Jesus told us to pray that we'll be able to escape it. So, okay. Here's 1 Corinthians 15. Let me see. Okay. Let me see. Image. Okay. Listen, I tell you a mystery. We will not all sleep, but we will all be changed in a flash, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. The trumpet will sound, the dead will be raised imperishable, and we will be changed. Okay. And then look what it says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. 1 Thessalonians 4 says, look, okay, we believe that Jesus died and rose again, so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. According to the Lord's word, we tell you that we who are still alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, will certainly not precede those who've fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel and the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so will we ever be with him. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. So, it's the caught up, the word in Greek, this is one of the few Greek words that I know. The word caught up here is one of my favorite words. It's one of my favorite words in the Greek. It's one of the few words I know in Greek. I don't know that much Greek, but I know this word here. I think it's verse 15. Okay. Okay, here's the word interlinear will be caught up. The word is
Strong's G 726. Harpazo. Harpazo.
harpazo. So that's the rapture. Harpazo will be caught up together with the Lord. Uh-oh, what happened? Okay, guys. Well, do we have any Muslims here who want to come up? If you have any Muslims, you're welcome to come up. All right, you guys. If not, then we'll go ahead and call it a night. And thank you guys for hanging out with us for a little bit. Be blessed and have a wonderful today. If the rapture doesn't happen, we'll see you here, there, or in the air. God bless.
If you have ever wondered why dull apologists lie so much, it's because on a rare occasion that they tell the truth, this happens.
One of the reasons I accepted Islam was the scientific miracles. I'll be honest with you. And now we know that this whole scientific miracles was absolute nonsense.
You're going to have to repeat that.
That the standard narrative has holes in it. That's what I'm going to say.